Welcome to another AWS adventure. My name is Jeff, and in this story, we've got Paul, whose dream of owning a cat cafe called Coffee, Tea, and Cats is finally becoming a reality. He took a loan out on his 401k and spent all of it on build-out and merchandise for his online store. However, he still needs a website where customers can schedule visits, view profiles of cats up for adoption, and purchase cat-related accessories. So let's explore.
So what are some options for Paul? A friend of his, who's more tech-savvy, has some recommendations. First thought, hire a web developer to design a custom WordPress site, including a scheduling system and e-commerce capabilities. Another idea, use Wix, which is a popular proprietary online web building platform. And a third idea is use AWS Lightsail to quickly build a WordPress site with just a few clicks. So let's review Paul's website requirements. Number 1. Initially, the monthly cost has to be under $10 a month, with no upfront expense for infrastructure. Coffee, Tea, and Cats is in a very trendy area of the city, so the lease is expensive. Therefore, Paul needs to keep monthly expenses low until he starts making a profit. Also, installation needs to be quick and easy, because he would prefer to build it himself and not have to worry about the storage or networking components. Second requirement. Paul needs to be able to easily integrate a scheduling plugin so clients can schedule visits for cat adoptions. Third, Paul doesn't want to forget about backups of his site and needs them to run automatically every week. He also wants to be able to export them. Monitoring and alerting. He needs to be alerted via email when his site has resource issues so he can take action to prevent an outage. In addition, Paul would prefer to have his site running on a virtual Linux server for security. He was a Linux administrator before opening his cat cafe, so he's familiar with SSH and using the terminal for OS-related tasks. Paul needs his site to be scalable. When there's an inevitable surge around the holidays for cat accessories, the infrastructure needs to scale out automatically to handle the heavier traffic and to prevent his site from crashing. Paul needs an e-commerce platform to sell cat accessories that's under $20 per month. And for durability, his coffeeteaandcats.com site needs to resolve when the site is stopped for maintenance. When sites are stopped, the IP address changes, so a static IP is needed. So let's compare his available options. The custom option. Based on Paul's needs, the custom development option by a web guru is out of the question, mostly due to the large upfront investment of having a web developer design his site from the ground up and the amount of time it will take to deploy it. A custom website can take multiple weeks to months to design and develop. The Wix site. This is a very popular and it's a reliable platform, but it doesn't have some of the features like SSH access, external backups, scalability, alerting, and the static IP required for the durability of his coffeeteaandcats.com domain. WordPress on Lightsail is Paul's best option. It fills all of his needs. Low cost, easy setup, which he can do himself, SSH access to the Linux virtual server running WordPress, online scheduling capability, monitoring, alerting, backups, e-commerce, and it even has a free static IP. After considering the options, it was an easy choice. Along with many other small business owners, developers, and students, Paul chose Lightsail to deploy WordPress.
For Paul's deployment, we'll be using the following AWS services. IAM. We'll use Identity Access Management to create a non-root user we'll use for launching a WordPress instance with Lightsail. This user will only have permissions to deploy and administer instances. And we'll use Lightsail. We'll use the Lightsail service to create a WordPress instance for Coffee, Tea, and Cats. In this setup, we'll also set up a static IP so his domain can resolve when an instance is stopped or rebooted.
So what is Lightsail? Lightsail is a virtual private server provider. Say that 5 times real fast. It's essentially an Amazon virtual cloud server, and it's a simple way to get your feet wet with AWS. This service is perfect for developers, small businesses, and students who need a quick and easy solution for hosting their applications in the AWS cloud. And the best part is, there's no need to manage the compute, storage, or networking resources required to launch and manage something as a WordPress website. Here are some other ways, besides WordPress, to leverage Lightsail for your deployment. Available templates also include Drupal, Joomla, Ghost, Magento, Redmine, Lamp and Limp Stacks, Mean, Node.js, and Django. Additional software can also be installed using SSH. You can use your own client or the in-browser SSH provided by Lightsail. Let's talk about security, backups, and alerting. You can secure your instance by controlling traffic with Lightsail Firewall. This allows you to set rules for which ports are publicly accessible for incoming and outgoing network traffic. Instance backups. You can also backup your instance with snapshots, which are point-in-time backups of instances, databases, or block storage disks. You can create snapshots manually or by enabling automatic snapshots. Best practice is to use automatic snapshots so you don't miss a critical backup. Lightsail also provides monitoring and alerting. Metrics can be collected on instances, load balancers, and databases. You can set thresholds and alarms. If metrics register over threshold, a notification will be displayed in the Lightsail console. You can also configure notifications to send an email or SMS message upon a breach. So how much does Lightsail cost? Well, we've got good news for Paul and his Cat Cafe. Reporting direct from the Lightsail FAQ on the AWS website. For a limited time, Lightsail is extending its free tier to include 3 months free on select bundles as long as you started using Lightsail on or after 7/8/2021. After 750 hours of usage, standard charges apply. This is great news. Now, if you signed up before 7/8/2021, the paid tier of Lightsail is pay only for what you use at a fixed hourly rate. The most cost-effective plan starts at only $3.50 per month in US dollars. So it's very affordable to leverage Lightsail for your WordPress deployment. So before we get started, we'll need to sign up for an AWS account at aws.amazon.com. Next, we'll set up an Iam user that has permissions to deploy and administer the Lightsail service. Then, we'll create a Lightsail WordPress instance. And finally, we'll log into our WordPress site. So let's get started. So before you get started, you'll need to sign up at aws.amazon.com and create an AWS account. So once you've got an AWS account, log into the console with your root credentials. We're going to go aws.amazon.com console. We're going to enter our root credential. And we're going to enter our two-factor authentication code. And I'm using an authenticator app on my phone. And now we're into the console, US West 2 in Oregon. Next, we'll launch the Iam Service, Identity Access Management, to create a user, group, and a policy. So just type IAM in the search, and this will load the IAM dashboard. It's important to mention using the principle of least privilege when creating accounts in AWS, which means start with a minimum set of permissions and grant additional permissions as necessary. In this case, we're going to create a policy that only allows Lightsail access. We'll assign that policy to a group and add our new user to that group. So first, we'll create a policy for access to Lightsail named Lightsail-policy. So let's click Policies, Create Policy. And we're going to use the visual editor for this. You can always use JSON code if you prefer, but for this instance, we're going to use the visual editor. And we're going to search for Lightsail. And for this case, we're going to say all Lightsail actions, and it will warn us this is not best practice, but since this is a demonstration, I'm going to allow all resources. As you can see, it tells you this is not best practice. Add tags next. And this is optional, but we'll just add a tag. Okay. Review. And here we can name the policy. We're going to call it Lightsail-policy. Give it a description. And then we're ready to click Create Policy. Okay, and now you can see our WordPress policy, Lightsail-policy, is now here in the list. Okay, next we're going to create a group. So click on User Groups, Create Group, give the group a name called Lightsail Admins. We don't have a user created yet, so we'll skip that step. We're going to attach a policy next, so scroll down, find our policy we created, click the checkbox, and click Create Group. And there we have our Lightsail Admins group. Okay, the next step will be to create a user. Click on the Users tab, add users, and we're going to call this Lightsail-user1. And we're going to give console access. Going to create a custom password. You can also have one auto-generated. And for this case, since it's a demonstration, we're going to uncheck this. Require password reset. And we're going to click Next to add permissions. Okay, not save. And what we're going to do, add the user to this group. Click Tags. If you want to add a tag, you can. And click Review. So we've got a user named Lightsail-user1. And we've got it attached to Lightsail-admins group. So we'll click Create User. And then once we create the user, we'll get a link where we can sign in as that user. So we're going to copy and paste this. We're going to log out of our root account. And we're going to sign in with the new account. So I'm just going to paste the link. And the username is Lightsail-user1. Enter our password. Click Sign In. And now we've logged in as Lightsail-User1 to the AWS Management Console. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to launch a WordPress instance using Lightsail. So in the top search box, just type in Lightsail. You have to spell it correctly first. Click on Lightsail. And we're going to get a welcome from the robot. We'll click Let's Get Started. And here we are. So for Paul's Cat Cafe, we're going to use Linux. We're going to select the platform as Linux. We're going to keep this in the availability zone US East 1A. We're going to do App and OS Blueprint. So we're going to choose WordPress. And that's the default selection here. And if you want, you can add a launch script, but for this case, we're not going to do that. And also here you can see you can enable automatic snapshots right away, and we know Paul wanted to do that, so let's do that. We're going to pick Eastern Daylight Time, where Paul's Cafe is located. Let's do that at 11 p.m. Okay. And now we'll choose our instance plan. So for this case, we're trying to keep it under $10 a month. So we're going to start with the $3.50 plan, and Paul can always upgrade this later. We're going to identify our instance. We're going to call this Coffee, Tea, and Cats. And we're not going to add any tags. And we're going to create instance. So here's our new instance. It's currently in the pending status, so it's firing up right now. And once this is fired up, we can assign a static IP. So let's let this fire up and we'll come back. All right, so as you can see, our instance is now running of WordPress for Coffee, Tea, and Cats. So if you click the three dots here, you can manage the instance, stop, reboot, or delete the instance from here. Let's click Manage. And let's just review our details. Our public IP is here. Private IP, our status is running. We can also stop or reboot this instance from here. And we're in the Virginia Zone 8, US East 1. Our specs are here, 512 mega RAM, 1 virtual CPU, and a 20 gig solid state drive. If we scroll down just a little bit, we're going to connect using SSH via the browser. And from here, we can cat the bitnami password file to get our password. And here's our instance password. So we're going to also use this to log into WordPress. Okay, so now that we have our password, we can log into the WordPress site. So we're going to take the public IP. First of all, let's make sure it comes up. Okay, so we're good. We've got our initial landing page. And next what we want to do is log into WordPress. And that's going to be wp-login.php. And here we've got our WordPress login page. So we're going to type, our default username is going to be user, and then the password that we got previously. Click login. And here's our WordPress dashboard. So from here, Paul can change his theme, clicking appearance, themes, and he can pick one of the default themes or add a new theme. There's many options here, many free options for Paul actually. Popular themes. So there's a lot to choose from. But we'll leave that up to Paul. So what he can do though is go ahead and create a new user if he'd like. And here's that user. If you wanted to add a new user, you could do that here. And that's it. Paul's up and running. All he's got to do is pick a good theme, design it, and we can also install plugins. There's multiple plugins. He can also search for a scheduling plugin. So there's multiple options here. Acuity is a very popular one. And a lot of these are also free. So the last pre-task we need to do is set up a static IP address. So Paul's domain can resolve if an instance is stopped or rebooted. Click on the networking tab. And under the public IP, there's a create static IP selection. So click create static IP. We're going to attach it to this instance, our only instance. And we can call it static IP coffee, tea, and cats. And then we'll click create. And that's it. Our public IP is attached. So let's review. In this lesson, we created an AWS account and set up an IAM user with access only to Lightsail. In a few clicks, we installed Lightsail and set up our static IP address. And finally, we logged into our WordPress dashboard and reviewed theme options and available e-commerce plugins. Congratulations! Paul now has the foundation to customize a WordPress website for his cat cafe. My name is Jeff Calith, and I thank you once again for joining me on this AWS adventure, and I hope to see you next time.